This just changed the entire narrative around the Minnesota Vikings after a game that nobody expected to see from this team. We now have quotes coming out from JJ McCarthy, Kevin O'Connell, based on those two, as well as a major update regarding the defense and the offensive line here in this video. But with the Vikings 1-0, we have a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already first. Before we do jump into it, though, because we have a lot of Vikings news coming over this season just like this. You won't want to miss it. But let's jump straight into this, Griffen, because obviously this game was up and down. I don't think I sat down this entire game, but going into this game and coming out of it with a major win and a kind of change around the team beginning in that fourth quarter, this team looks a lot different than what we saw start the first snap of this game. And I mean, heading into this, with quotes from JJ McCarthy, which we're going to get into here in a moment, with Kevin O'Connell and Aaron Jones talking about him, things were special here. So before we do jump into these quotes, I want to know what you firstly think about this game. I know you made the video post-game last night, but obviously seeing now these quotes come out, which we're going to, like I said, jump into here in a moment, how do you think this changed this team just from, the first snap to the end of the game?
Yeah, I mean, when that first snap happened, that post-game video last night was looking like a completely different kind of video from the first three quarters, basically. And we heard them talk about in the game how with Blake Cashman getting injured, Joe Buck just would not shut up about the Vikings not playing their starters in the preseason. But the way I looked at it is the Vikings played three bad quarters. That's preseason game 1, 2, and 3. All right, we woke up for the fourth quarter. Now we're in the regular season. And that's when JJ McCarthy just really kind of locked in, really saw a really kind of different mentality from him. He didn't have a bad completion percentage in the first half, but when you look at the yards that he had, wasn't really a lot of yards. It was only like 40-something yards, and a lot of that was yards after catch. Then he flipped to the fourth quarter. And that's where it completely changed, where he goes 6 for 8, over 120 yards, or over 100 yards, sorry, like 104 yards, and a rushing touchdown in clutch moments too, on prime time. That 3rd-and-1 touchdown run, it was awesome. It brought a tear to my eye as a Vikings fan because it made me just realize that we have our guy. He has that killer instinct in him, and that is why he is wearing that captain C on his chest. That's why the players voted for him, and you saw it on full display last night why JJ McCarthy is this franchise quarterback and the leader of this team.
Yeah, and this team has mentioned that. We saw in Kevin O'Connell's post-game, kind of locker room ball award ceremony, I guess we could call it, for this team, that they voted JJ McCarthy for our captain for a reason. We saw that. I do recommend going to watch if you haven't. It's just about everywhere you're looking for the Vikings. But JJ McCarthy had some very, exciting quotes, I guess is a good way of putting it, while also just kind of being on, on board with this team. Seeing this, this is from JJ McCarthy on Kevin O'Connell. That guy is one of the best, if not the best head coaches, in my opinion, in the National Football League. Now, JJ McCarthy said a lot more than this, but he's not calling out or not saying nothing about the beginning of this game. He's just going step by step of how this game played out. Kevin O'Connell was a part of that. JJ McCarthy was a part of that. Brian Flores and the defense was a part of this. Will Riker with a 59-yard field goal was a part of this. This entire team started clicking, and JJ McCarthy was really the head of that. Now, going into it as well, Kevin O'Connell was not afraid to speak about this game, talking about everything that was going on, everything here. And he also had some quotes, once again, that we're going to jump into, but he said to JJ McCarthy, "Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, and strap in. You are going to bring us back to win this game." The look in his eyes was just fantastic, and we see the connection between these two already. You wouldn't know if JJ McCarthy was the quarterback of this team for 5 years. These two lived together for 10 years. These guys, right now, are locked in, and I think that was fair to say, as you mentioned, Griffin, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, when everybody locked in for their start of the regular season, when that fourth quarter clocked over, that was the beginning of it. And I mean, just going through this game, seeing Kevin O'Connell take the leadership in this game and being one of the smartest head coaches, and I think this screenshot right here brings all of that. When we did see Ty Chandler run the ball out at the end of the game, he was calling. He was like, "Hey, look at me. Keep your eyes on me. We have a game plan here." And that was executed to perfection at the end of this game, and really got this Vikings team a much more relaxing win than it would have if that ball went out of the end zone, if they, put it out of the, out of bounds, whatever would have happened. Things worked out to a T for Kevin O'Connell, and he was the head of this. So, I mean, just going into this game and seeing where things really locked in, It was fantastic to see on this side. Now, before we do jump into one more thing, though, Griffin, I want to know what you think about this quote here from Aaron Jones. And we spoke a little bit about this before the video, but this, to me, was one of the momentum-shifting points here in this game. And what it seems like from Aaron Jones, the team thinks this as well. He said, there was a moment when we were still down. JJ McCarthy runs into the huddle and looks at us and says, is there anywhere else you'd rather be? That right there is the definition of a leader. The definition of someone who will guide your team to a victory. And I mean, we spoke about this before as well, Griffin. I don't know anybody in the NFL right now who at this age, at this point in their career, would do that thing, would say that to a team while down against a team where they're not the best team in the NFL. They got much better, and you were playing absolutely terrible to start the game off as a team, the Vikings were. Coming into saying this, that was a momentum-shifting play, in my opinion. I want to know what you think about that as well.
Just absolute big dog energy. If there was a brick wall in front of you right now, I'd run through it. And I guarantee Aaron Jones and all those players in that huddle were ready to run through a brick wall for JJ McCarthy because he just comes in poised. That was the big thing Kevin O'Connell talked about in that locker room speech. He was poised and just did not waver for a single second, even when the chips were down and all the pressure was mounting on him with the play clock, the interception, the pressure, not being able to escape the pocket, stumbling on his own feet, trying to make a run happen. And then it was just, all right, settle down. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna win this game. And Kevin O'Connell just reinforcing that. It just makes the case of why he's the best coach in the NFL as well, and just as to why he is the perfect coach for JJ McCarthy. And with JJ McCarthy as well, everything that we've seen with him, and I said it in our episode last night, where he talks like Kevin O'Connell. He's like a mini-me Kevin O'Connell. And with this organization where you have Kevin O'Connell, Josh McCown, and JJ McCarthy making up 3 generations of quarterback play in one organization and helping this team try and get a Lombardi win with finally having a franchise quarterback, where even in the stats that we've been seeing coming out, where he was the first Viking to have 2 touchdowns in his debut since Fran Tarkenton and get the win. Steve Young, at his first quarterback and the only other quarterback aside from Steve Young to have a 10-plus point deficit that they came back and won in the fourth quarter in their NFL debut. And he's the only one that's done it on the road and let alone in prime time. So that just goes to show this guy is big ticket box office football, and he is ready to just take this team as far as he can take them.
Yeah, and having your name, JJ McCarthy's name, in that mix of players already is an immediately great sign, but we know that he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about what's going on now. He's thinking about how this team can get better from that game. And I would even assume that he said that immediately after the game. What can we do to get better next game? And that's going to be something that we're going to see every game from this Vikings team. That's going to get better and better and better. This game, I was expecting the Vikings come in here, take it slow. Not as bad as we were, but we saw the evolution of this team even throughout this game. Not just over a couple weeks, but through this game, this Vikings team's got better. So I can only imagine how the next few weeks are going to progress now that JJ McCarthy has his debut done and over with. Now the nerves are off. You know what you can do, and you know what's ready, because no other game that this Vikings team is going to play, at least until maybe closer to the postseason, is going to have that much significance to him heading into it. So I'm very excited about that. But also coming into this game, we had a lot of interesting things. Of course, having Christian Darrisaw out still caused a bit of a kind of commotion on the offensive line, and we're going to talk about that right here. Aside from Justin School, who was not great, the offensive line combined for only 1 pressure allowed and 31 pass block snaps, and one hurry charged to Will Fries. But going over this game, the offensive line, immediately we saw a major bounce back from what we've seen over the past few years. Justin School, not going to be there for, the rest of the season. This was, of course, just because Darrisaw is out. But even heading into this one, we saw a big bounce back, or not bounce back necessarily, but a player on this offensive line that really took over to help out Justin School here. And that was Donovan Jackson with his first NFL start as well. He was kind of under the radar solely because of JJ McCarthy and this team, but 0 sacks allowed, 0 quarterback hits, 0 total pressures, 0 hurries. One of the best starts that we've seen in quite some time for an offensive lineman on this Vikings team. Now, going into the rest of the season, once you get Christian Darrisaw back, this team is going to look very, very good. Now, whether that will be week 2 or not is still yet to be determined. We know he is ahead of schedule. We just don't know if that will be next week. But going into next week, if we take a look at the offensive line and kind of make some moves, assuming Christian Darrisaw is out, I think there's no way that Justin School will start that next game. I think there's a better chance that we move Donovan Jackson over to left tackle, where he played in his final year of college every game there, and move Blake Brandel off to left guard as we did a little bit last year. I think something like that, just moving Donovan Jackson over to somewhere where he's not unfamiliar with it. He's played a lot there last season. Give it a go for one game until Darrisaw comes back, even though he was that good on left guard. It's just a move that you would add to get someone more familiar with that position rather than throwing Justice School in there, where had that struggle, would it happen next game? You can't assume it would, but it wasn't a great showing here in this one. But the offensive line was absolutely great in this game. And Ryan Kelly went to the blue medical tent, came out, was all good after that. But a little bit of a scare there. But Griffen, how do you think this kind of offensive line impacted JJ McCarthy's game? And obviously, it did change a lot from last season, which was only a positive thing. It could not have really gotten worse. But going into this game, I think the offensive line really helped out his debut and kind of was an underrated piece as to why this game was such a big success for the Vikings here in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was big for JJ McCarthy because he needed as much protection as possible. Because in that first quarter, the Bears are bringing not a lot of pressure, but they were still getting home with only a 4-man rush. So the Vikings were still kind of just trying to work out the kinks. All right, how is this offensive line going to flow? What's the kind of order of operations here as far as how we're going to move as one unit rather than just moving as separate guys trying to block individuals? And then once that kind of started getting clicking and Ben Johnson was running out of scripted plays on offense and defense, that's where they were really kind of able to settle in. We saw this offensive line really kind of take the form that we were hoping it would take heading into this season with all the moves that they made. And to your point, that if Darrisaw is not ready to go next week, I love the idea of putting Jackson out at tackle because who's the other guy they got on that depth chart? Undrafted big boy Joe Huber, who would be great to have as his hometown debut or the team debut with Minnesota in Minnesota would be awesome, especially with the potential this guy brings. Minnesota is very high on him. He was an undrafted rookie who made the team out of camp. So give him a shot, especially when you look at what Justin School was able to do. He did not have a good showing. You put Jackson out there at tackle where he's familiar with. You put Huber in at guard. I think that's a really good move on the Vikings' part.
Yeah, and I mean, the defense on this part as well was a very big part of this win. And I mean, heading to this one, Javon Hargrave, another recent addition, was absolutely fantastic. 7 QB pressures, 5 total tackles, 2 sacks, and 1 QB hit. I mean, asking for a better debut on defense is a lot harder than what it may seem. But this debut from Javon Hargrave was, I think, another testament to how good we've been able to see this defense be, not just in the preseason, not just last year, but even making some of these additions, and Brian Flores adjusting to that with some of these veteran players. He's probably one of the weirdest defensive coordinators in the NFL, but he's by far one of the best as well. It works. He's very familiar with players, and I mean, adding guys like Javon Hargrave here into this matchup, it's just absolutely insane to see this Vikings defense kind of total into who we have on this depth chart. So, I mean, going into that as well, the defense absolutely phenomenal here in this game was another big reason as to why they kept us in this game and allowed for JJ McCarthy to have that comeback. I mean, this team, JJ McCarthy guiding this team, this entire, not just the offense, not just the defense, but everybody together, was just a major part of him being so much more of a leader than what these other quarterbacks at his age, at his kind of role over the past few seasons on their teams has been. So, I mean, this game, I think, set us in a very good direction, changed what everybody thought about this Vikings team, and I'm excited to see how week 2 goes. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be easy once again, but now that this first game is out of the way, I think we're a very different team heading into week 2. So, before we finish this video off, Griffin, do you have anything else before we kind of close it out here?
Can't wait for next Sunday night. It's going to be an interesting matchup to see how these two young quarterbacks go head to head. It's going to be a revenge game for JJ McCarthy as well for that Fiesta Bowl loss when they lost to Washington. He has a bad taste in his mouth with that. So he's like, all right, we're going to it was against Washington in the national championship that he faced him, but they lost to TCU and he hasn't lost since. So he's trying to keep that going. And now it's just a matter of keeping that translated and just making sure that we can keep this momentum riding and just, hey, if we can keep rattling off the wins, it's going to keep the more confidence is going to come. If Minnesota lost this game, it'd be a lot different story heading into week 2. But because they got that first win out of the way, that first big primetime game weighted off of his chest, and already in one game, JJ McCarthy has changed the primetime perception in a way that Kirk Cousins couldn't on Monday Night Football. So now we're able to kind of go into Sunday Night Football, see how we can kind of keep this primetime momentum going. And then if we can go into these Europe games at a 3-0 record or 2-1, that Cincy game, I'm kind of predicting a loss there as a sneaky trap game. But if we can go into the bye week at 4-1 or at 4-2 or 5-1, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could step into week 2 on the wrong foot here. This was probably the best way you could have done it. So I'm very excited to see how this played out. We're going to be keeping you guys updated with everything that the Minnesota Vikings have going into week 2, as well as the injury status of Christian Darrisaw, Harrison Smith, and just about everybody else on this team. And hopefully we have everybody back here for week 2 and we start this kind of season off for week 2 with a fully healthy team. But like I said, we're going to have to keep you updated with that. But that's all we got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. We're signing out though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.